Monday, April 5th, 2021. Today we discuss the second part of the QAnon documentary on HBO entitled Q Into the Storm, about that stuff, with your host, me, Joe LaRocca. What's up, everybody? Okay, so last time when I reviewed this show initially, I thought it was only 4 episodes, because they did a strange thing where they released them every week or two in blocks of 2. So it was just a little bit strange, and when I Googled it, it said 4, and I was like, because 4 had been released, not a total of 6, which it actually is. So I wanted to see where they took it, and this is directed by Cullen Holbeck, excuse me. It's the ending is better than the beginning, if that makes any sense. I kind of thought it was a little bit unorganized at first, if you watch my first review, and I just thought there was like way too many moving parts, and it didn't seem to be structured, and I felt like they needed more diagrams. You know, documentaries have diagrams with arrows and stuff. I thought it was kind of that sort of situation, but it needed that. And so it gets better, though. I think as it gets to its final answer, it becomes more clear, and the information is disseminated into fairly understandable situation. But I mean, you poke holes in it either way. Like, I'm sure I will, because a lot of people posted on the last one that that I haven't taken the red pill, or I have, or I don't know, Anyway, so let's just talk about this more as a documentary. What's going on in episode 5? It's basically the Frederick Brennan guy who originally created 8chan. He came from Gamergate thing or whatever, and then eventually sold it to the Watkins. And it's about him fighting against the Watkins over 8chan because of the mass shootings that started happening, where people, posted their manifestos or were, somehow a part of 8chan, and he didn't want to be associated with that because because that's not cool, to be associated with mass shootings. So, it's kind of the battle about that and how it gets changed to 8kun, Kun, and it's pretty interesting. We start learning about PSYOPs, which is non-violent military strategies that push false narratives, that then get repeated and become real narratives. It's like laundering information, which is really interesting. The characters in this are kind of interesting, because this, but they're all like these egomaniacs. Basically, everybody's in, we'll get to that, but the bigger ideas of how to control masses in these non-violent political, a cold civil war. It's pretty interesting. It's incredibly interesting, and granted, calling this a conspiracy theory is really not the right word. Maybe it starts as a LARP, and then kind of builds out of control. Like, I was kind of my feeling after watching the first part, especially because there's a very distinct change in the type of writing, and it's like, clearly it's Ron, and now people already are like, oh, Ron, it's a trick. Q played a trick to make it seem like it was Ron, and Ron is like sacrificing himself. It's like, what? Maybe, or I don't know, just, I don't know. I don't have evidence, but Ron seems like the kind of guy who would do this. Ron and Jim Watkins, they seem like just kind of power hungry kind of people who were nerds, or society kind of pushed them off to the side, so they went, and they wanted some power, and they get off on that they have some power. I mean, but I don't have any evidence on that other than just being a human being and looking at them. in their faces and just looking into their eyes. And when Ron's lying, he goes like this. He blinks like crazily. It's like, all right, dude, I'm not like an FBI. It's like, all right. They just seem like the kind of people who were bullied and then got some authority, got some power, and I mean, I know this because I was bullied, and anytime I gain power, I love it. I'm guilty of all these things, except I didn't put it on the internet. I guess I am now, but I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't nearly as ambitious as these people. Anyway, so episode 5, brings about this coming storm that's been being talked about, and it's this idea of patriots versus fake patriots. It's like, oh gee, that probably won't cause an issue, and then they talk about it. So all basically just a whole bunch of volatile personalities that, especially the way you act on the internet, is completely different than the way you act in person. Not necessarily, but sometimes, it's a mask, and so that changes. Your bravado could be big. We talked about that a few days ago about sometimes you say something that's kind of trollish that you would never say in person, but you just say it because you're in a bad mood or something, or somebody online annoys you. That's obviously like a negative thing, and whenever I do it, I'm like, why did I do that? That was stupid, and I usually delete it. Anyway, I'm pretty convinced, at least the documentary convinces you that Ron is Q, or at least becomes Q, and co-ops it for the fame and the power. And you would think the money, but in actuality, they're not doing great financially. But I don't know, it's pretty interesting. And we get people admitting to the Army of Northern Virginia, which is this 860 or something around there military intelligence network, because Trump's administration didn't trust the Pentagon, so they had like this auxiliary, what do you want to call it? I have to keep looking at my notes because there's all these terms and stuff, but yeah, it gets kind of out of control. It's like pedo wood and adrenochrome, and people think they're, liberals are drinking babies' blood and sex trafficking and stuff like that. And then it's kind of funny because then, recently Mike Gates, that guy, the GOP guy, he's like kind of exactly what QAnon with, it's like there's like now some evidence potentially that he has underage things going on. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, it gets crazy out of hand in terms of, and we all know this stuff. It builds up to, the stuff at the Capitol, and which is bonkers. And the editing of that footage, and they do a rendition of White Rabbit. Oh yeah, Woody, you should watch it, at least episode 6, because I know you love Jefferson Airplane, don't you? Feed your head. There's like a version of that with all the building up. It's crazy, and you go, it's really like exciting, and then you're like, wait, this is bad. This is a bad thing that's happening. This is not like, it's not like Braveheart. It's like Purge or something. Anyway, basically, kind of the overall things is that during a crisis, people look for answers anywhere. And that's what kind of poured gasoline on this. The election, having the president we had, the more and more fake news, whatever you want to call that. I mean, everything. This documentary could be all fake. Who knows? It's if I ever say anything that's wrong, like that's what you're here for, is for you to go, no, that movie came out in 1953, or like you're here. You're the checks and balances to me. Like I won't delete that stuff unless you're being offensive. But if you're like, no, Joe, you're completely wrong, Ron Watkins, blah, 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 blah. Like, I know that I'm interested in hearing about it, because really this is all storytelling to me, Like, it got so crazy out of hand that it, influenced an election. It's just the power and, positives and negatives of the power of the internet, being able to connect everybody and kind of be hidden, and how you can launder information and mess with it and twist it and bend it into a certain way. Like if you're an editor on like at one point, Frederick Brennan, who acts in front of the camera like he's a hero and he's a great guy, but then he writes all these tweets and then would change information on Wikipedia to corroborate things he said to journalists, so that when the journalists go to fact check it, if they even bother, then it's there, because he put it there. And it's like, oh, God, this is too complicated. Who knows what information we're getting? Who knows? If it really went that deep, would this documentary even be allowed to be released? Wouldn't they, in a sense, make a documentary like this and make it seem like, oh, the liberals put out a documentary to discredit us, just to kind of like, but really there's 12chan, and there's double QAnon, or something like that out there that's really pulling the strings. Let's start that. That's a good one. I'm Code Monkey 2, baby. Come and get me. No, please don't come and get me. I'm just kidding. I think that everybody, I feel bad for people who get like kind of brainwashed by the really crazy aspects of this, but I also understand where people being interested in it, like I understand where it comes from, and I understand people voting for Trump the first time. I totally understand where that sentiment comes from. I don't personally agree with it, but I get it. But after my final thoughts, basically after watching this, is that you just see it's like Steve Bannon and Michael Flynn and Roger Stone and Jim and Ron Watkins and this Frederick Brennan, and just they're all assholes. Just a bunch of fucking a-holes. You'd never want to hang out with any of them. Just nerds. Just a bunch of nerds. And that's coming from a guy who's this close to getting into painting Warhammer figurines. That might happen one day. I've always wanted to do that. That scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin where now you have blue pants. Or in the movie Ronin, that guy, he's painting, he's got like his samurai like display diorama, but it's hyper realistic. I love that. It's like Legos, but like an adult, or like the dioramas that are in museums. Oh my God, those are so amazing. The smaller, the better. Anyway, if you're interested in this, I would say watch the first episode and the last episode if you just kind of want to get an overview, because like a lot of these documentaries, it kind of strings you along. Although it's pretty interesting, I found it a little bit confusing because I didn't want, at a certain point, I just wanted the facts, and I certainly understand a term I learned about QTubers, who are QAnon supporters who are on YouTube. Like, understand their want for exponential channel growth that you get from kind of tapping into this, because it's like I'm just kind of I think I'm doing it like the most honest way possible. These are I'm getting blue collar subs, like I'm not buying them. I don't, promote or even really talk about that. Sub now. Click the sub button. Anyway, but I understand why, like, if my numbers started like rocketing up because I, released a Q drop or whatever, then yeah, I can see how addicting that would be. Ooh, I'm just in my bedroom and this is giving me attention and yay, So things like the crisis. I said in a time of crisis thing. People start looking for answers. It's like that's what the election and COVID and everything. It's just like, buh. You know what I mean? It's it's just so much. It led to doom scrolling. There were so many words in this. Again, I think that there's an age of person, or it doesn't really matter age-wise, but if you're not like internet savvy, you probably should watch this whole thing just to become hip on all these terms, because I feel like I'm fairly internet savvy, and there's like a whole side of the internet that I just know nothing about. They do a really smart thing though when they rebrand 8chan to 8kun, Kun. They make it look like a HTML, like Web 1.0, so that nobody's interested in using it except for like very specifically the people who are using it for Q stuff. It's interesting. It's kind of weird. But it's a cool idea. It's like, like how Craigslist, I mean, this has nothing to do with Craigslist, but Craigslist, like they haven't updated their interface at all to keep it low cost, I assume. Anyway, Craigslist. Okay. Yeah. The ultimate this isn't like a 9/11's an inside job kind of thing. This has, in my opinion, has way more. It's a conspiracy theory that have way more like real world results. You know what I mean? Like maybe the internet stuff just was a catalyst that didn't actually interfere with it, but what it did was change minds, and those minds then went to the Capitol. And some of those minds went on mass shootings. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh God, maybe the most, basically, I think at that point it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. Is basically what I'm trying to say. When people are like getting hurt over it constantly, it's not good. Anyway, I'd like to hear your opinion. Genuinely would like to hear your opinion. If you're a Q supporter or if you're against it, I'm just here to learn, guys. Okay, I'm gonna do some music. I guess I'll talk to you soon. I think it's Holy Monday. Happy Holy Monday. Or no, it's not. It's like Easter Monday. That's what it's called. Okay. Bye. What's up, Kevin? You don't need to watch White Boy. Just watch the last episode of this. I don't know. Just watch I don't know. Watch Rick and Morty or something. I don't know. You basically know the story of White Boy, The war on drugs was fought and lost. Drugs won. That's the answer to that. QAnon is the internet is influential, and assholes are everywhere. I like that. Drugs always win. That does seem to be the case. last thing I want to say, the title sequence for the QAnon documentary is very interesting. I like it. I like the music. And at the very end, if you notice, Ron Watkins is wearing a hood with a jacket, and the hood makes a Q because it's a side zipper. Trust me, look at it. All right, take it easy.